The deep space around the Sol system had been quiet for millions of years. Today, that silence broke as 50 alien ships moved through the darkness like hunting wolves. Their hulls were black and smooth, designed to slip through space without being seen. The ships belonged to the Zephyrian Confederacy, and they had come to Earth with one purpose: to see if humans were worth conquering. Commander Vexth stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the blue and green planet ahead. His 4 arms moved across the control panels while his large eyes studied the data coming in. For 300 years, his people had taken over 17 different star systems. Each time they found weak civilizations that could barely travel between their own planets. The humans looked like they would be just as easy. "Commander, we are picking up signals from the 3rd planet," said his second officer, Kethra. Her voice carried the clicking sounds that all Zephyrians made when they spoke. "They seem to have basic space travel and some kind of communication network." Vexth nodded his large head. The reports from their spies had been right. Humans had learned to travel faster than light for communication, and they had built some ships that could move between planets. But compared to the mighty Zephyrian fleets, they were nothing more than children playing with toys. Far away on Mars, Lieutenant Amy Patterson sat in front of her screen, watching numbers and lines that most people would not understand. She had been monitoring space for unusual activity for the past 6 months. Today, something was different. The readings showed objects moving in patterns that did not match any known human ships or space rocks. "Jake, come look at this," she called to Commander Jake Morrison, who was checking reports from other stations. Jake walked over and looked at her screen. His face became serious as he saw what she had found. "How many contacts?" Jake asked, his voice quiet but tense. "I count at least 40, maybe 50. They're moving in formation and they're not broadcasting any identification signals," Amy replied. She had been in space defense for 8 years, and she had never seen anything like this. Jake reached for the red communication device on his desk. This was the phone that connected directly to Earth's strategic command. He had hoped he would never need to use it. "This is Mars Station Alpha. We have unknown contacts entering the solar system. Repeat, we have unknown contacts." The voice that answered was calm but firm. "Confirmed, Mars Station Alpha. Maintain observation protocols. Do not attempt contact. Admiral Grant is being notified." Back on the alien flagship, Scout Leader Kethra was making her first detailed scans of human space. What she saw made her feel confident about their mission. There were several space stations around the blue planet, some mining operations in the asteroid belt, and what looked like a small fleet of maybe 200 ships. The humans appear to have standard defensive positions around their homeworld, she reported to Commander Vexth. "I detect approximately 50 orbital platforms and evidence of ground-based weapons. Their technology seems adequate but not impressive." Vexth looked at the data with satisfaction. This was exactly what they had expected. The humans had progressed far enough to be useful as workers and soldiers, but not so far that they would be difficult to defeat. The Confederacy had faced this situation many times before. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Grant stood in the underground command center that few people knew existed. The room was filled with screens showing every part of the solar system. Around her, dozens of officers worked quietly at their stations. When Jake Morrison's message came through, she was ready. "Activate Protocol 7, she said in a voice that carried throughout the room. "All hidden assets are to power up but remain concealed. No active scanning, no communication breaks. We watch and we wait." Captain Ryan Brooks received the order. Aboard the orbital platform Aegis. To anyone looking from the outside, Aegis appeared to be a simple research station studying the effects of solar radiation. In reality, it was one of Earth's most advanced military command posts, equipped with weapons that could destroy a small moon. "All stations, maintain radio silence," Ryan told his crew. "We're going dark, but keep all sensors active. I want to know everything these visitors are doing." The Zephyrian scouts moved through the solar system like tourists taking pictures. They visited each planet, scanned each moon, and cataloged every human installation they could find. They were thorough and professional, just as they had been in 17 previous invasions. What they found seemed to confirm all their expectations. Around Jupiter, they discovered mining operations that appeared to be extracting gases from the giant planet's atmosphere. Near Saturn, they found research stations that seemed to be studying the planet's rings. Everything looked normal for a civilization that was just beginning to explore its own star system. Commander Vexeth was pleased with what his scouts were finding. The humans had built a respectable space-based civilization, but it was clearly limited to their own solar system. Their military appeared to be concentrated around their homeworld, which was exactly what the Confederacy expected from a young species trying to protect itself. Kethra, what is your assessment of their military capabilities? Vexeth asked as they completed their scan of the inner planets. Standard defensive posture, Commander. They have approximately 200 military vessels of various sizes. Most appear to be patrol craft and system defense ships. I detect no evidence of long-range strike capability or advanced weapon systems. What the aliens did not know was that every move they made was being watched. Deep inside an asteroid that looked like any other piece of space rock, Captain Helen Stone commanded a base that housed 5,000 people and enough weapons to fight a war. The asteroid had been carefully hollowed out and equipped with technology that made it invisible to almost any scanner. They just passed within 2,000 kilometers of us, Helen reported to her communications officer. Their sensors swept right over us, and they didn't detect anything. The same scene was playing out all across the solar system. Hidden bases that looked like asteroids, space stations that appeared to be research facilities but were actually military command centers, and ships that seemed to be cargo vessels but carried enough firepower to level a city. Colonel Dan Murphy sat in his office on Earth, coordinating with bases and ships that officially did not exist. He watched the alien scouts through sensors they could not detect, and he smiled. The Zephyrians were doing exactly what human military planners had hoped they would do. They were seeing exactly what humans wanted them to see, and nothing more. The aliens spent 3 days conducting their survey. They were careful and methodical, taking readings and recordings that would help their invasion fleet plan its attack. When they were finished, Commander Vexeth felt confident that he understood the human military situation completely. Prepare to depart, he ordered his fleet. We have all the information we need. The humans have a decent defensive force, but nothing that a standard Confederacy battle group cannot handle. 5,000 ships should be more than enough to defeat them. As the 50 alien scouts prepared to leave the solar system, they carried with them data that would convince their leaders that humanity was just another primitive civilization waiting to be conquered. They had seen space stations, defensive platforms, and a modest fleet of ships. They had scanned mining operations and research facilities. Everything they observed fit perfectly with their expectations of a young species that had recently learned to travel between planets. What they had not seen were the 300 hidden bases scattered throughout the solar system. They had not detected the 12,000 ships waiting in concealed positions. They had not discovered the advanced weapons that human scientists had spent decades developing. Most importantly, they had not realized that humanity had been preparing for this day for 50 years. The Zephyrian scouts entered hyperspace and began their journey home, carrying information that would soon bring their entire civilization to the edge of destruction. Behind them, the solar system seemed quiet and peaceful, just as it had been before they arrived. But beneath that peaceful surface, the most powerful military force in the galaxy was getting ready for war. The alien scouts had been gone for 2 hours when the real human military began to show itself. Deep underground in Colorado, General Claire Robinson walked through corridors that stretched for miles beneath the mountain. The facility had been built in secret over 30 years, and it controlled military operations that most world leaders did not even know existed. Colonel Murphy, what's the status of our hidden assets? She asked as she entered the main command room. The room was massive, with screens covering every wall and hundreds of officers working at computer stations. All stealth systems are operating perfectly, General, Colonel Dan Murphy replied. The aliens passed within scanning range of over 40 hidden installations and detected nothing. Our quantum displacement technology is working better than we hoped. The Zephyrian scouts had seen exactly what humanity wanted them to see, but the reality was far different from their observations. What appeared to be a young civilization with limited space capabilities was actually the most militarized society. In known galactic history, Scout leader Kethra had reported finding 50 orbital defense platforms around Earth. What she had not detected were the 300 additional platforms that used advanced stealth technology to remain invisible. Each hidden platform carried weapons powerful enough to destroy a battleship with a single shot. Captain Helen Stone floated in the zero-gravity section of Fortress Prime, the massive asteroid base that the aliens had passed so close to. The asteroid looked completely natural from the outside, but inside it housed a small city. 5,000 military personnel lived and worked in the hollowed-out rock, along with weapons systems that could fight off an entire enemy fleet. Communications. "Get me Admiral Grant on Earth," Helen said as she pushed herself toward the command center. The artificial gravity kicked in as she moved through the airlock, and her feet touched the metal floor. "Connection established, Captain," her communications officer replied. Admiral Lisa Grant's voice came through the speakers clearly despite the distance. "Captain Stone, I need a full report on your status. How many ships can Fortress Prime support? In combat operations? We currently have 200 vessels docked in our internal bays, Admiral. All ships are fully armed and ready for deployment. The aliens passed right over us without the slightest idea we were here." This conversation was happening simultaneously across the solar system. Asteroid bases, hidden moon installations, and camouflaged space stations were all checking in with Earth Command. Each facility had been designed to appear as something harmless, while actually serving as a major military stronghold. The Zephyrians had observed mining operations around Jupiter, not realizing they were looking at the largest ship construction facility in human space. What appeared to be simple gas extraction equipment was actually advanced manufacturing systems capable of building a battleship every 3 days. Commander Ben Taylor supervised the construction of the newest human dreadnought from his position, aboard the orbital shipyard hidden in Jupiter's upper atmosphere. The massive construction facility was disguised to look like a gas mining platform, complete with fake equipment and false energy readings. "How many ships have we completed this month?" he asked his chief engineer, Lieutenant Carol Brooks. 37 major vessels, Commander. 12 heavy cruisers, 20 destroyers, and 5 of the new super dreadnoughts. Production is actually ahead of schedule." Ben nodded as he looked out the window at the construction bays. Dozens of ships in various stages of completion filled the facility. Each vessel was equipped with weapons and defensive systems that were decades ahead of anything the Zephyrian Confederacy possessed. The aliens had cataloged approximately 200 human military ships during their survey. They had no idea that this represented less than 2% of humanity's actual fleet strength. The real human navy consisted of over 12,000 vessels, most of which remained hidden in concealed bases throughout the solar system. Major Kevin Clark coordinated the greatest deception operation in military history from his post on the far side of the moon. The Luna base appeared to be a simple research facility studying the effects of solar radiation on lunar rocks. In reality, it was the command center for humanity's entire stealth fleet operations. "Major, we have confirmation from all sectors," his aide, Captain Jessica Williams, reported. "Every visible human asset performed exactly as planned during the alien survey. They saw our training ships conducting basic maneuvers and recorded our communications, discussing resource limitations." Kevin smiled. The human military had spent months preparing for this moment. Every ship the aliens observed had been carefully selected to create a specific impression. The Zephyrians had watched human vessels conducting what appeared to be standard patrol operations, not realizing they were seeing elaborate training exercises designed to mislead enemy scouts. The communications the aliens had intercepted were equally misleading. Human commanders had deliberately transmitted conversations about fuel shortages, equipment problems, and the need to concentrate their limited forces around Earth. Every word had been calculated to make humanity appear weaker than it actually was. Lieutenant Colonel Susan Hayes commanded the Proxima Centauri colony, humanity's first settlement beyond the solar system. The colony had been established in complete secrecy 20 years earlier, and it now housed over 1 million people. More importantly, it served as the base for humanity's interstellar fleet. "Colonel, Earth Command is requesting an update on our fleet status," her communications officer announced. "Tell them we have 800 ships ready for immediate deployment," Susan replied. "All vessels are equipped with the new hyperspace drives and can reach the solar system within 6 hours if needed." The Zephyrian scouts had found evidence of human expansion to exactly 3 star systems beyond Earth. They had no idea that humanity had actually established colonies in 12 different systems, each defended by fleets that could challenge the entire Confederacy military. Back in the solar system, the deception continued even after the aliens had left. Captain Linda Foster watched from the Titan research station as automated systems maintained the illusion of simple ice mining operations. Beneath the surface of Saturn's largest moon, massive factories continued producing advanced weapons and ship components. "Captain, the fabrication units have completed another batch of plasma cannons," her chief engineer reported. "Where should we store them?" "Transfer them to Storage Bay 7 with the others," Linda replied. "How many do we have in reserve now?" "Approximately 50,000 units, Captain. Each one capable of penetrating Zephyrian armor based on our analysis of their hull materials." The Human Intelligence Network had been studying the Zephyrian Confederacy for decades. Intercepted communications, analysis of their ship designs, and even captured technology from their previous conquests had given humanity a complete understanding of their enemies' capabilities and weaknesses. Commander Rachel Torres stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Leviathan, hidden in the shadow of Europa. The massive ship was larger than anything the Zephyrians had ever built, and it was just one of 96 vessels in her battle group. 12 such battle groups remained concealed throughout the solar system, each one powerful enough to destroy the invasion force the aliens were planning to send. "Commander, we're receiving updates from the outer system monitoring stations," her tactical officer announced. "All alien scouts have departed. No indication they detected any of our hidden assets." Rachel nodded with satisfaction. Phase 1 of humanity's defense plan had worked perfectly. The aliens had seen exactly what human strategists wanted them to see, and they were returning home with information that would ensure their defeat. The Zephyrian Confederacy had conquered 17 civilizations by following the same pattern. They sent scouts to evaluate their target, then dispatched a fleet size to overwhelm the enemy's defenses with minimal losses. It was an effective strategy that had worked for 3 centuries. What they did not understand was that humanity had studied their methods and prepared accordingly. Every aspect of the human deception had been designed to exploit Zephyrian assumptions and tactical doctrines. The aliens expected to find a civilization that followed the same patterns as their previous conquests, and humanity had given them exactly what they expected to see. The reality was that Earth had become the center of a military empire that spanned 13 star systems. Human technology had advanced far beyond anything the Confederacy possessed, driven by decades of preparation for this exact scenario. The species that had once fought wars with primitive weapons had transformed itself into the most formidable military force in the galaxy. As the alien scouts traveled home through hyperspace, carrying their fatally flawed intelligence reports, humanity continued its preparations. The greatest war in galactic history was about to begin, and only one side knew the true scope of what was coming. The Zephyrian scouts had been traveling through hyperspace for 6 hours when Major Kevin Clark finally allowed himself to smile. He stood in the real command center of Luna Base, surrounded by screens that showed the true strength of humanity's military forces. The deception had worked perfectly, but now came the hardest part, making sure the aliens never discovered the truth until it was too late. "Major, we're receiving reports from all sectors," Captain Jessica Williams announced. "Every hidden installation maintained perfect stealth during the alien survey. They detected nothing beyond our planned revelations." Kevin nodded as he studied the tactical displays. Humanity had spent 50 years planning for first contact with a hostile alien species, and every detail had been considered. The ships the Zephyrians observed, the bases they detected, even the conversations they intercepted had all been carefully designed to create one specific impression: that humanity was a typical young civilization with limited military capabilities. 3 days earlier, Commander Ben Taylor had deliberately ordered his visible fleet to conduct training exercises using outdated tactics. The alien scouts had watched human ships moving in predictable formations, using communication frequencies that were easy to intercept, and displaying weapon systems that appeared primitive compared to Zephyrian technology. Did the aliens record our practice battle near Mars? Ben asked his intelligence officer aboard the disguised command ship Ranger. Yes, Commander. They observed the entire exercise and recorded our tactical communications. According to their analysis, our fleet doctrine appears to be at least 50 years behind their own standards. Ben laughed quietly. The outdated tactics the aliens had observed were actually elaborate performances designed to hide humanity's real combat capabilities. The ships they had watched were training vessels equipped with fake weapons and false energy signatures. The real human fleet used combat doctrines so advanced that they would have seemed impossible to any Zephyrian military analyst. Deep in the asteroid belt, Captain Helen Stone reviewed the intelligence reports from her hidden base. Fortress Prime was just one of over 300 concealed installations throughout the solar system, each one designed to appear as something completely harmless to alien scanners. Captain, we've completed our analysis of the Zephyrian scanning techniques, her science officer reported. Their sensors are sophisticated, but they rely on traditional detection methods. Our quantum displacement technology makes us completely invisible to their equipment. Helen studied the data with satisfaction. Human scientists had developed stealth technology that went far beyond simple radar absorption or visual camouflage. By manipulating quantum fields around their installations, they could make entire bases appear to not exist at all. The aliens could scan an area containing a major military facility and detect nothing but empty space. This quantum stealth system had been tested against humanity's own most advanced sensors, and it worked perfectly. If human technology could not detect the hidden bases, then alien scanners had no chance of finding them. The Zephyrians had observed what appeared to be mining operations throughout the outer solar system. They had cataloged gas extraction facilities around Jupiter, ice mining stations near Saturn, and asteroid processing centers in the belt. What they had actually been looking at was the largest military-industrial complex ever created. Commander Sarah Phillips supervised the real Jupiter facility from her command post deep within the gas giant's atmosphere. The installation appeared to be a simple mining platform from the outside, but it was actually a shipyard capable of producing a battleship every 2 days. Commander, the latest production run is complete, her chief engineer announced. 24 heavy cruisers and 6 super dreadnoughts are ready for deployment. Where should we position them? Transfer them to Staging Area 7. Sarah replied. Make sure they maintain stealth protocols during the move. We can't risk detection now that the aliens know we exist. The ships produced by the Jupiter facility were technological marvels that incorporated decades of human innovation. Each vessel was equipped with weapon systems based on principles the Zephyrians had never encountered, defensive technology that could withstand their most powerful attacks, and propulsion systems that made human ships faster and more maneuverable than anything in the Confederacy fleet. Lieutenant Colonel Susan Hayes received an encrypted message from Earth Command while reviewing her colony's defensive preparations. The Proxima Centauri settlement was one of 12 human colonies that existed in complete secrecy, each one serving as a forward base for humanity's interstellar expansion. Colonel Earth Command is requesting an update on Project Expansion, her communications officer announced. Susan opened the classified file and smiled. Project Expansion was humanity's plan to establish hidden colonies throughout the galaxy, while appearing to be confined to their own solar system. Each colony was positioned to serve as a staging area for military operations against the Zephyrian Confederacy. Send this reply, she said. All expansion colonies are operational and ready for Phase 2 deployment. Total human population beyond Sol system now exceeds 10 million. All settlements remain undetected by alien reconnaissance. The Zephyrians believed they had discovered a species limited to 3 star systems. The reality was that humanity had quietly spread across 47 different systems, establishing mining operations, research facilities, and military bases wherever they found suitable planets or asteroids. Back in the solar system, the deception continued on multiple levels. Captain Ryan Brooks maintained his position aboard the orbital platform Aegis, which appeared to be a simple research station. In reality, it was one of the most heavily armed installations in human space. equipped with weapons that could destroy an entire enemy fleet. Captain, we're detecting increased communication traffic from the Zephyrian home systems. His intelligence officer reported. It appears their scouts have returned and are filing their reports. Ryan studied the intercepted transmissions with interest. Human technology had advanced to the point where they could monitor enemy communications across interstellar distances in real time. The Zephyrians had no idea that every conversation, every data transmission, and every military order was being recorded and analyzed by human intelligence services. The alien reports were exactly what humanity had hoped to hear. The scouts described finding a civilization with approximately 800 military vessels, 50 orbital defense platforms, and limited expansion beyond their home system. They recommended a standard invasion force of 5,000 ships, confident that this would be more than sufficient to defeat human resistance. Colonel Dan Murphy coordinated the final phase of the deception operation from his underground command center. Every aspect of humanity's response to the alien invasion had been planned in advance, including how to maintain the illusion of weakness, even during active combat. Colonel, all Phantom communication networks are active, his aide reported. When the invasion begins, we'll be able to simulate the collapse of human forces while our real fleet remains hidden. Dan nodded. The Phantom networks would broadcast fake distress calls, simulated retreat orders, and false damage reports during the coming battle. The Zephyrians would think they were winning right up until the moment humanity revealed its true strength. Admiral Lisa Grant stood before a holographic display showing the entire solar system. Thousands of red dots represented hidden human installations, concealed fleets, and secret weapons platforms. The aliens had detected perhaps 1% of humanity's actual military infrastructure. Admiral, final confirmation from all sectors, General Claire Robinson announced. Operation Deception is complete. The enemy has departed with exactly the intelligence we wanted them to obtain. Lisa studied the tactical display with grim satisfaction. Humanity had transformed itself into a military superpower through careful planning, advanced technology, and absolute dedication to defending their species. The Zephyrians were about to discover that they had chosen the wrong target for their 18th conquest. The alien scouts were now traveling home through hyperspace, carrying reports that would convince their leaders to authorize a standard invasion. They had seen human ships conducting basic training exercises, recorded conversations about resource limitations, and observed what appeared to be a modest defensive force concentrated around Earth. What they had missed was the most sophisticated military deception in galactic history. Humanity had shown them exactly what they expected to see while hiding the largest fleet ever assembled, the most advanced weapons technology ever developed, and a strategic network that spanned 50 star systems. The Zephyrian Confederacy was about to make the worst mistake in their 300-year history. They were planning to attack a species that had spent half a century preparing for exactly this moment, and they had no idea what was waiting for them. Commander Vexith stood before the High Council of the Zephyrian Confederacy, his forearms moving gracefully as he presented his report on the human survey. The massive chamber was filled with the most powerful beings in known space, military, commanders who had conquered 17 civilizations and ruled over billions of subjects across multiple star systems. Honorable council members, Vexith began, his clicking voice echoing through the hall. I have completed the reconnaissance mission to the Sol system. The humans present a standard conquest scenario with minimal complications expected. Hi. Commander Zarthek, leader of the Confederacy's military forces, leaned forward in his floating chair. His ancient eyes had seen the defeat of countless species, and he was always interested in the details of a new campaign. Present your findings, Scout Commander, Zarthek commanded. Vexith activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. A three-dimensional image of the Sol system appeared, showing planets, moons, and the human installations his scouts had cataloged during their survey. The human civilization consists of approximately 4 billion individuals concentrated on their homeworld, which they call Earth, Vexth reported. They have established colonies on 2 additional planets within their system and have expanded to exactly 3 nearby star systems. The council members nodded approvingly. This was exactly the pattern they had seen with other species. Young civilizations typically established a few nearby colonies before being discovered by the Confederacy. What is their military capability? Asked War Minister Kefra, her scarred face showing the experience of dozens of successful invasions. The humans possess approximately 800 military vessels of various classes, Vexth replied. Most appear to be system patrol craft and defensive ships. I detected 50 orbital defense platforms around their homeworld and evidence of ground-based weapon systems. He manipulated the display to show the human ships his scouts had observed. The vessels appeared functional but unremarkable, using technology that seemed decades behind Confederacy standards. Their largest ships are approximately 600 meters in length. Vexth continued. We observed no vessels exceeding 800 meters, and no evidence of advanced weapons technology beyond standard plasma cannons and missile systems. What the Zephyrian commander did not know was that he had been watching training ships and system patrol vessels. The real human fleet consisted of battleships over 2 kilometers long, equipped with weapons that could destroy a Confederacy dreadnought with a single shot. High Commander Zarthek studied the tactical display with the eye of an experienced warrior. The human defensive positions appeared standard for a species that had recently achieved interstellar travel. Their ships were concentrated around their homeworld, leaving their outer colonies lightly defended. What about their expansion capability? He asked. Do they pose a long-term threat to Confederacy territory? Minimal expansion potential, Vexth replied confidently. Their industrial base appears limited to their home system, with only basic mining operations in the outer planets. I estimate they could expand to perhaps 10 additional systems over the next century, assuming they are not conquered. The council members exchanged satisfied looks. A species with limited expansion potential was perfect for conquest. They could absorb the human population as workers and soldiers without worrying about future rebellion or competition. Meanwhile, light years away in the Sol system, Lieutenant Commander Gary Phillips monitored Zephyrian communications from his hidden listening post in the asteroid belt. Human technology had advanced to the point where they could intercept enemy transmissions in real time across interstellar distances. Sir, we're receiving the alien commander's report to their high command, his communications specialist announced. They're recommending a standard invasion force. Gary smiled as he listened to the intercepted transmission. The Zephyrians were discussing humanity exactly as human strategists had hoped they would. Every piece of false information had been accepted as fact. Back on the Confederacy homeworld, War Minister Kefra was calculating the resources needed for the human conquest. She had overseen 12 successful invasions and knew exactly how to plan an efficient campaign. Based on your reconnaissance, you scout commander, what invasion force do you recommend? She asked. Vexth had prepared for this question. He had analyzed the human defenses carefully and calculated the minimum force needed to ensure victory with acceptable losses. I recommend a standard battle group of 5,000 ships, he replied. This will provide a 6-to-1 numerical advantage over human forces, which should be sufficient to overcome their defensive positions within 6 months. High Commander Zarthek nodded approvingly. A 6-to-1 advantage was the Confederacy's standard for conquering a new species. It provided enough firepower to crush enemy resistance while minimizing Zephyrian casualties. What about their technology level? Asked Science Minister Velton. Do they possess any weapons or defenses that might surprise us? Vexth consulted his data files. His scouts had conducted detailed scans of human equipment and found nothing unexpected. Their technology appears to be developing along standard lines, he reported. Basic plasma weapons, conventional missiles, and standard defensive shields. I detected no evidence of advanced propulsion systems, exotic weapons, or unusual defensive technologies. The truth was that human scientists had developed weapons based on principles the Zephyrians had never encountered. Quantum phase cannons that could penetrate any known armor. Gravitational missiles that created miniature black holes, and defensive systems that could deflect entire fleets. Council member Thexka, the oldest member of the High Council, spoke for the first time during the briefing. His voice carried the authority of someone who had witnessed the rise of the Confederacy from a single planet to a galactic empire. "You are certain they have no hidden capabilities?" he asked. "No secret weapons or concealed fleets?" Vexith straightened his posture. This was a question of professional competence, and his reputation was at stake. "Honored Elder, my scouts conducted the most thorough reconnaissance in Confederacy history. We spent 3 days surveying every planet, moon, and asteroid in their system. We intercepted their communications, scanned their installations, and observed their military exercises. I am confident we detected the full extent of human capabilities." What Vexith did not realize was that he had been allowed to see exactly what humanity wanted him to see. Every communication his scouts intercepted had been deliberately transmitted. Every military exercise they observed had been carefully staged. Every installation they detected had been specifically designed to create a false impression. The High Council voted unanimously to authorize the invasion of human space. Fleet Admiral Mordak was assigned to command the assault force, and preparations began immediately for what the Confederacy expected to be their 18th successful conquest. "Admiral Mordak," High Commander Zarthek announced, "you will depart in 30 days with Battle Group 7. Your mission is to conquer the human species and integrate their territory into the Confederacy. Based on Scout Commander Vexith's report, we expect minimal resistance." Admiral Mordak was a veteran of 8 successful invasions. He had never failed to complete a conquest mission, and he did not expect the humans to be any different from the other species he had defeated. "I will need detailed intelligence on human defensive positions," he told Vexith. "I want to know the location of every ship, every weapon platform, and every possible escape route." Vexith provided complete files on everything his scouts had observed. The data showed human forces concentrated around Earth and Mars, with lighter defenses around their outer colonies. It was a standard defensive pattern that the Confederacy had encountered many times before. As the Zephyrian fleet prepared for departure, human intelligence services monitored every aspect of their preparations. The aliens were building exactly the force that human strategists had predicted, using tactics that had been studied and countered decades in advance. Major Patricia Lee coordinated intelligence gathering from her post on Earth's moon. Her teams had spent years analyzing Zephyrian military doctrine, and they knew exactly how the aliens would approach the coming battle. "Ma'am, we have confirmation of the enemy fleet composition," her aide reported. 5,000 ships, standard Confederacy battle formation, departure scheduled in 28 days. Patricia nodded with grim satisfaction. The Zephyrians were following their established patterns perfectly. They had no idea they were about to face an enemy that had spent 50 years preparing specifically for this moment. The aliens believed they were planning to conquer a weak civilization with 800 ships and limited technology. They were actually about to encounter the most powerful military force in galactic history, commanded by a species that had turned warfare into an art form. Scout Commander Vexith had filed the most catastrophically wrong intelligence report in military history, and he had no idea of the disaster he had set in motion. Admiral Elizabeth Barnes stood in the deepest command center on Earth, watching as thousands of displays showed the approach of the Zephyrian invasion fleet. After 50 years of preparation, the moment humanity had been waiting for was finally here. 5,000 alien ships were moving through hyperspace toward the Sol system, expecting to find an easy conquest. They were about to discover their greatest mistake. "Admiral, the enemy fleet will arrive in 6 hours, reported Captain Nicole Young from her position at the tactical station. "All human forces are ready for Operation Revelation." Elizabeth nodded and pressed the activation button that would change galactic history forever. "Execute Contingency Plan Omega. All hidden assets are authorized to reveal themselves. It's time to show these aliens what humanity really looks like." Across the solar system, the largest military force ever assembled began to emerge from hiding. What had appeared to be empty space suddenly filled with thousands of ships as quantum stealth fields deactivated. Asteroids that had seemed natural revealed themselves to be massive battle stations. Research facilities transformed into weapon platforms. Mining operations became shipyards launching fully armed fleets. On Jupiter, Commander Sarah Phillips watched as her hidden shipyard came online. The facility had been disguised as a simple gas mining platform, but now it revealed its true nature. 300 completed battleships emerged from concealed construction bays, each one larger and more powerful than anything in the Zephyrian fleet. "All ships report ready for combat," her tactical officer announced. "The Titan Squadron is requesting permission to deploy." Sarah smiled as she looked at the massive dreadnoughts floating in Jupiter's atmosphere. Each ship was over 2 kilometers long and equipped with weapons that could destroy a small moon. "Permission granted. Take them to staging area Alpha and wait for the enemy to arrive." The Titan Squadron was just one of 47 similar formations scattered throughout the solar system. Humanity had built a fleet that numbered over 50,000 vessels, each one designed specifically to fight, the Zephyrian Confederacy. Captain Helen Stone commanded Fortress Prime as it revealed itself for the first time in 20 years. The asteroid base had been invisible to all scanners, but now its true size became apparent. The installation was larger than most cities, housing 5,000 personnel and enough weapons to fight a war by itself. "Fortress Prime to Earth Command," Helen reported. "All weapon systems are online. We're detecting the approach of the enemy fleet and are ready to engage." Similar reports came in from installations throughout the solar system. 300 hidden bases, each one more powerful than anything the Zephyrians had encountered in their previous conquests, were powering up for battle. Lieutenant Colonel Susan Hayes received the activation order at her colony in the Proxima Centauri system. The settlement had been humanity's best-kept secret, and now it was time to reveal the true extent of human expansion. "All colonial fleets, this is Proxima Command," she broadcast on the secure channel. "Operation Revelation is now active. Deploy to your assigned positions in the Sol system." 12 hidden colonies responded to the call. From secret bases scattered across 47 star systems, the human interstellar fleet began converging on Earth. Each colony contributed hundreds of ships to the defense force, bringing humanity's total fleet strength to over 70,000 vessels. The Zephyrian invasion force dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, exactly where human strategists had predicted they would arrive. Fleet Admiral Mordak stood on the bridge of his flagship, confident that the coming battle would be just another routine conquest. "Admiral, we're detecting the human fleet," his tactical officer reported. "Approximately 800 vessels concentrated around their homeworld as expected." Mordak nodded with satisfaction. The intelligence reports had been accurate. The humans had gathered their entire fleet to defend Earth, leaving their outer colonies unprotected. It was a desperate move that would only delay their inevitable defeat. "Begin the attack approach," he ordered. "Maintain formation and prepare to engage human forces." What Admiral Mordak did not know was that he was looking at decoy ships and holographic projections. The 800 vessels he detected were not the human fleet at all, but an elaborate illusion designed to draw the Zephyrian forces into the perfect position for their destruction. As the alien fleet moved deeper into the solar system, Captain Ryan Brooks watched from his hidden command post aboard Aegis Station. The orbital platform had appeared to be a simple research facility, but it was actually one of the most heavily armed installations in human space. "Captain, the enemy is approaching the trigger point," his weapons officer announced. "All defensive. Grids report ready for engagement." Ryan studied the tactical display showing the positions of both fleets. The Zephyrians were moving in a standard attack formation, following the same tactics they had used in 17 previous conquests. They had no idea they were flying into the most sophisticated trap in military history. "Hold position," Ryan ordered. "Wait for Admiral Barnes's signal." The signal came when the Zephyrian fleet reached the inner solar system. Admiral Elizabeth Barnes's voice echoed through every human ship and installation in the sector. "All units, this is Earth Command. Execute Operation Revelation. Show them who we really are." What happened next would be remembered as the most shocking moment in galactic history. The empty space around the Zephyrian fleet suddenly exploded with light as thousands of human ships dropped their stealth fields and revealed themselves. The aliens found themselves surrounded by a force 10 times larger than their own, equipped with technology they had never seen before. Admiral Mordak stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Where his sensors had shown empty space moments before, now there were countless human vessels appearing from nowhere. His fleet of 5,000 ships was vastly outnumbered by an enemy that should not have existed. "Impossible," he whispered. "Where did they all come from?" Commander Alex Turner led the first wave of human ships as they moved to encircle the confused alien fleet. His vessels had traveled from the Wolf 359 colony, arriving just in time for the battle. Each ship in his formation was equipped with quantum phase cannons that could penetrate any known armor. "This is Commander Turner to all human forces," he broadcast. "The enemy is exactly where we want them. Begin Phase 2 of the operation." The human fleet opened fire with weapons the Zephyrians had never encountered. Quantum cannons tore through alien shields like they were made of paper. Gravitational missiles created miniature black holes that swallowed entire enemy squadrons. Energy beams based on controlled fusion reactions vaporized battleships in seconds. The Zephyrian fleet, which had expected to face 800 primitive human vessels, found itself fighting 70,000 ships equipped with the most advanced weapons technology in the galaxy. Their plasma cannons and conventional missiles were useless against human defensive systems that could deflect entire fleets. Captain Matthew Rogers commanded the flagship UES Defiance as it emerged from behind Earth's moon. The massive vessel was larger than any ship in the Zephyrian fleet, and it carried enough firepower to destroy an entire planet. "This is Captain Rogers to the Zephyrian invasion force," he transmitted on all frequencies. "You have entered human space with hostile intent. Surrender now and your lives will be spared. Continue fighting and face complete destruction." Admiral Mordak tried to organize his fleet for a fighting retreat, but it was too late. Human ships appeared from every direction, emerging from asteroid bases, orbital platforms, and concealed positions throughout the solar system. The Confederacy force that had seemed so powerful was now trapped and outnumbered. Within 6 hours, the most feared military force in known space had been completely destroyed. Not a single Zephyrian ship escaped to report what had happened in the Sol system. The Confederacy's 18th conquest had become their greatest defeat. As the battle ended, Admiral Elizabeth Barnes surveyed the wreckage of the enemy fleet. Humanity had revealed itself to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible, and the message was clear. Earth was not a target for conquest, but the center of the most powerful civilization in known space. The War Scouts had been stunned by what they thought was the scale of the human army. Now the galaxy would learn that they had not seen anything at all,